welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a brief look of my journey as a reader. Now, I have always been into reading. I have enjoyed reading since I learned to read, basically. So this journey is going to go back pretty far, starting when I was a child, and some of my favorite books and my favorite book series and standalones and a bunch of stuff like that. I'm really excited to get into it because it's going to be a little trip down nostalgia lane, and I feel like some of these books I do not see talked about, like in the book spaces when people are reminiscing, so this is going to be fun. We're going to be starting out with talking about my childhood favorites, and this list wouldn't be complete if I didn't include scary stories to tell in the dark. I think every school library had these books, and every person that likes to read horror books now probably read these as a child, and I am included in that group. And I'd even went a step further to say that some of my teachers read these stories to us in like a circle during school. So that's how I consumed most of my scary stories to tell in the dark. And honestly, the images that were in those books both excited me and terrified me. The next book series I want to talk about, which I don't know if I'll be able to find a picture, because I was trying to find a picture before I even started recording, and I couldn't remember the author, which is the main problem. But it was this series that was just called, like, Fairy Tale. And it was, like, this fantasy series that involved the same main character, and she kept on going, like, into this fantasy world, or into this fairy world, and kept on having a variety of different, like, experiences in this realm. I mostly remember the book specifically about the fairies, and then there was one about mermaids too that was a lot of fun. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to find a picture, and I'm going to put it here somewhere, because I'm sure the image of these covers will spark for you what it did for me if you read them as a kid too. Okay, moving on to a similar vein, the Rainbow Fairies series had me in an absolute chokehold. I had read so many of them. I was a huge fan. Like, my parents bought so many from that series for me whenever we went, like, the book fair or whatever was going on at my school. That'd always be my top choice if I was allowed to buy a book, which I was always allowed to buy at least one book, either from courtesy of my mom or my grandma, and that was one of my go-tos. Next, this kind of goes closer towards, older elementary school, and that was the Candy Apple, publishing imprint, I want to say. And this was just a bunch of series of standalone, almost like contemporary romances, but for a lot younger audience, where at most it's just mostly crushes and pining, and there may or may not be a kiss in a book here or there, but it's mostly very, very sweet, very innocent, and I absolutely ate them up. It's another reason I'm a romance girly to this day, because I loved it. That was the good old-fashioned. And then finally, for the final, fantasy series I want to talk about, which this entire series was at the library at my middle school. And I read the entire thing. Actually, I don't know if it was middle school or the 5th grade, because my middle school was technically, I was there from 5th through 8th grade, but 5th is an entirely different beast than being in 8th grade, you know? So, but I read this entire series, and it was called the Unicorn Secret series, which this girl, her favorite mare gives birth one day, and they don't know who the stallion was that got her pregnant, but the mare gives birth, and the foal is kind of weirdly shaped head. It's kind of got a bump on its head that I can't remember if it's her mother or her father, whoever's taking care of her, is well, we're gonna have to put this one down, and she was like, no, you can't. And I also think her favorite horse died giving birth to the foal. I don't remember 100%. But then she runs away, and it turns out that this foal is actually a unicorn, and it just goes from there. This is the first fantasy series that had me in a chokehold, I'm afraid. And then finally, the last series that had me in a chokehold was The Fire Within, which it was a dragon series that had to do with these clay dragons that each embodied like a wish or an interest, and so like this man is living with the people that make the dragons because he's renting out a room in their space, and they make him one with a pencil because he's an author, and it's through the magic of these dragons that he is able to write his first like children's book, and it just really goes from there. Like, that's the second fantasy series that had me in a chokehold and I could not put down. It is a god tier series to this day. I still own it. Like, I have those books sitting on my shelves. If you go back and look at my dragon video, they're in that video. So, yeah. Now, it's time to move on to my preteen to teenager years. These books are really what set me on the path to the type of stuff I like to read now. And while like all of those previous books definitely laid down the brickwork for it, right? These next ones really like sent me off and running in a way that I haven't really stopped. Actually, I'll get into the little break a little bit later because I'm gonna talk about it before I talk about the books I've been obsessed with as an adult, okay? But we're gonna start out with went through a phase where I was obsessed with chicken noodle soup for the soul. I read a lot, like I read all of the chicken noodle soup for the teenage soul. I read a lot like that were around like the similar age range because again, my school library had them all. So I was just obsessed with them, but they also low-key a little bit traumatized me. I learned about mental health in a way that I had no idea before I touched those books. It was definitely eye-opening. And to this day, some of those stories still affect me, but I definitely highly recommend if you've never given them a try, you have to. You have to give them a try. So good. Okay, next. There was a book that I had read that was a series. It was like a poem memoir, and I could not find the name of it, and I could not find a picture of it. But I'm pretty sure these poems were written by this boy who he has a chronic illness, but on top of him being like confined to a wheelchair, he had an older brother who had gotten cancer and died. And the poem memoir was like his experience with watching his brother get sicker and his brother die, even though he thought he was the one that was going to die first because of his chronic illness. And it was so heartbreaking. I don't know why I was reading that stuff as young as I was. Again, it was in the school library, and it haunted me. It still haunts me to this day. Okay, now that we've got those heavy ones out of the way, let's get into the more, I want to say trendy ones that I was reading. And I can't even start this list without including Twilight. I was a huge Twilight fan when I started reading them around the age of like 11 or 12. And I just, it was to the point where I would read through the entire series, I'd finish Breaking Dawn, and then I would start over from the beginning and read it all the way through again. And I can't help it. I couldn't help myself. It just really captured my imagination in the way nothing else had up until this time. And it definitely set the foundations for the rest of the books I read around that time period. Which, speaking of, the next one was Fateful, which I actually still own. It's still on my bookshelf. It is also kind of a paranormal romance like Twilight was. And it was about werewolves on the Titanic. This woman is I think she's like a maid or something for this rich family, and she gets invited to go to America with them on the Titanic. And she does, and then she falls in love with this man on the Titanic who, like I said, ends up being a werewolf, and she ends up in the middle of this feud between two werewolves that reach ahead as the Titanic is sinking. Great stuff. And then the Born at Midnight series, this one also had me in a chokehold. Like, after Twilight, this was the next series that I could not put down. And I liked the concept overall. It was really original. I'm going to get into minor spoilers here, so if you have an interest in reading the series as an adult, which it doesn't hold up as well as an adult, I will say, but beside the point. But yeah, this is your spoiler warning now. Okay. We find out through the course of the books that the supernatural creature that the main character is called a chameleon. And that means she can basically shift between all of the paranormal creatures for whatever like skill set needs her at the time. And it's so cool. And I have yet to see another book series accomplish that. So, and if you have Rex, definitely leave them in the comments. Loved it. And then the final one I want to talk about, this one has to do with angels. I'm blanking on what the name is exactly. It's something like Dark Temptation or something like that. I'll find the cover of the book and I'll put it here, because I was able to find it before, so I'll be able to find it again. But this one also, like, because I was kind of into the trend that was going on in the 2012s where it was like good angels and bad angels. Like, I read Fateful and all of that, though Fateful is not a Hallmark read for me, which is why it's not on this list. But this one is in a similar vein, and it was a Hallmark read. Like, I think it was like the main character, it turned out that her mom and her dad were angels on opposite sides. Like, one was a good angel and one was a bad angel, and they fell in love and had her, so she has powers from both lines. It was super, super good. Definitely, like, these books walked so romantasy could run, okay? Speaking of, now it's time to get into my adult picks. Okay, now getting into the adult reads that I've really enjoyed. It was like my third year of high school. I was a junior, and that is when I slowly stopped reading, because just like life was going on, you know. Like, I had a part-time job at that point. And when I wasn't working, I was hanging out with like friends, and on top of that, like, reading for school, because I was in the IB program, which is basically the same thing as like AP programs. And so I was really busy with schoolwork and required reading, so I didn't really feel like doing fun reading on top of it. And this reading slump basically lasts until my senior year of college, where I slowly broke into reading again. Like, I read like My Dark Vanessa, which, you know, is a messed up read to get back into reading with, but I needed it. And then, like, slowly, it was after I got my first like full-time job that I picked up a particular book by an author that is now greatly divided on the internet, but it is, ACOTAR. This was the first series that I was like, you know what, lots of people say it's really good, and I'm just now getting back into the reading world after being absent for so long, because the last time I was in the reading space, the Clockwork Princess or something like that, Cassandra Clare, her like Shadowhunter series or whatever, those were the big books. And so I was like, well, I need to refamiliarize myself with the bookish space, so I was looking at what's popular. I read this, and I absolutely loved it. This series is what made me fall back in love with reading again. You can have whatever opinion you want on the series, on SJM. It doesn't change the fact that my life would not look the way it does now if I chose any other book series to start reading again than this one. And then obviously, I had to keep reading the same author. And you guys are probably don't like, the SJM fans are going to be mad, but the next book series I read after that was Crescent City, which, by the way, I love Crescent City just as much. I know Crescent City gets hate. I adore Crescent City, but I also do like urban fantasy. So take with that what you will. And then finally, I also read and loved Throne of Glass. I mean, you can't be an SJM girly without having read Throne of Glass. And loving it on top of that. Got another series that low-key changed my life. And then just to get the popular, like super popular stuff out of the way too, I also love Fourth Wing. I am also a Fourth Wing girly, which you would know if you watch my dragon video too. Like, especially because of the main male character in the series, and that I love the magic system. I'm a sucker for a dragon writing book, especially where the dragon can talk to the other person's mind. Like, I loved Aragon. I didn't put it in the preteen section, but I also read and really loved Aragon as a preteen. I reread it as an adult, and I understood it way more as an adult than I did as a teenager. So, you know, that one's definitely got a special place in my heart too. Moving on now, we've got, I'm rearranging my stack here. I read Robin Hobb, and I've only read the first trilogy, the Assassin's Apprentice trilogy. I don't remember what the actual name of the trilogy is separately, but I read this first trilogy, and I'm going to be reading the Live Ship Trader trilogy next. which I'm really excited to get into, but I loved the high fantasy of this world. And I have also been diving into older fantasy too. Like, I also read The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey, and also by the same author I was also reading Acorna. So, which that's a series I definitely want to continue. It's like a fun sci-fi fantasy mix. Ugh. And next, An Education in Malice, I kind of picked off my shelf as a stand-in for basically all of the dark academia books I've been obsessed with recently. Like, I don't know what's been up with me this year, but all I want to read is dark academia, and every dark academia I've read has been awesome. Like, The Raven Scholar, loved it. The Incandescent, love it. This one's not so much dark academia, but it's close, which is The Sirens, which I think because of the journalism aspect makes me, like, feel like it's a little bit of equivalent, but not really. You know, it's not dark academia. I'm not saying that. Don't want the genre police coming after me. But I also just love S.T. Gibson as a whole, because I read Dowry of Blood, and I need to hop on reading the rest of her backlist. I want to do it. It's on a list. I'll get around to it eventually. And finally, the last book I want to talk about, another popular one, but also popular but slightly underrated, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. The way I was blown away by this book. Like, the concept, loved it. The execution, loved it. And the plot twists between this and book 3 were fantastic. I just, overall, this series definitely made me realize I need to read more N.K. Jemisin, and that I've been missing out. I do try to branch out. I do try to read diversely. And this is definitely one of those picks that encourages me to just do it more. But yeah, that is what my reading journey as a whole looks like. If you've reached this far in the video, thank you so much. You can leave a like, give me a subscribe if you want to stay on top of it. I did used to post gaming streams. I kind of found that, like, I kind of don't like streaming games. Maybe I'll do it here and there eventually, but it's not going to be my main content. I am fully transitioning all of my content. It's going to be mostly booktube. So, yeah. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.